All right, great. My name is Evan Dreyer. I am a deputy chief of staff in the mayor's office, and I am helping the team with the Vibrant Denver Bond. Thank you all. This is the primary message I'm delivering, is a lot of gratitude. Thank you all for agreeing to serve. I was just telling a couple of folks, this will be a lot of work, hopefully not an overwhelming amount of work, but it is a short sprint. This is not a 2-year effort. We're going to try to keep you busy for about 5 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks is what we're looking at. You're going to hear a lot of process today. We're going to talk about how things are going to work. We're going to talk a little bit about timeline. We're going to need your help trying to fit all of the great ideas into a big bucket. You're going to hear all this from the team. We're trying to hold this whole package to about somewhere around $800 million. We've got maybe 4 times that amount in project ideas that have come in so far. So that's what we need your help with, is helping us to prioritize and cheer how some of this fits into a big bucket. We are at the very end of the idea gathering stage from the public. We have an online survey, we have suggestion boxes. We've been doing the mayor and members of city council. And I think we have one member of city council who's here right now, Councilwoman Lewis. Thank you for joining. And I know there's a lot of council member staff here as well. We've been doing town halls all around the city trying to gather additional ideas. And now we're starting today with you into this next phase. As we finish up the public input process too. Again, you're going to hear from the team. We're going to talk a lot about process. There's one phrase, though, that I want everybody to remember. We're going to do this without raising taxes. This will be a huge help as we start to think about how we make all of this fit, how we talk with the public as we move all the way through the process with city council, and ultimately, hopefully, a referral to the ballot. But we're able to do this, and we'll talk a little bit about how we're able to do this without raising taxes. And that's the way the city has done these general obligation bond packages over the decades, frankly. With that, we're going to toss a whole bunch of information at you. We want your questions. Some of this will be easy to digest, and some of it might require a few times for us to say it, repeat it. And if there's anything that's unclear, we want to hear back from you. We really want you to have great clarity on what it is that we are asking. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the team. I don't think I wandered too far past the white line that I was told not to wander past. Thank you all again for agreeing to serve.
Thanks, Evan. Hey, it's so great to be here. I'm Laura Wachter. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Laura Wachter. I'm the Capital Planning and Programming Director with the Department of Finance. And I've worked with many of you for the past lots of years, so it's so great to see you guys here. Really excited. And I'll let Patrick introduce himself when it's his turn to speak. So I'm going to start off with the land acknowledgement.
There you go.
I'm going to start off with the clicker. There we go. I'm going to start off with the land acknowledgement. The City and County of Denver honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people. We also recognize the 51 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders, past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities, and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities in Denver. The labor acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our country's economy, infrastructure, and resulting generational wealth would not exist as they do today without the stolen and forced labor of enslaved Africans who suffered transatlantic human trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We acknowledge how these dehumanizing practices have social, legal, and economic legacies that continue to haunt to this day. I'll go on to the agenda. So thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to work with you guys. We're really excited to hear your thoughts, your opinions as we go through this process. I can't thank you enough for your willingness to serve and be partners in this whole process. I'm going to talk a little bit about GO bonds, just a brief 101 lesson of GO bonds. We'll talk about, I'll pass it over to Patrick then, and he'll get into the Vibrant Denver bond process, how we've gotten to this point. And he'll also talk about the timeline and as Evan said, any questions and answers that you guys do have. We absolutely want to make sure you guys have the tools you need as we're working through this process. And then after that, we'll have instructions and we'll break out into the subcommittees and we'll have further conversations in our subcommittee groups. So how do GO bonds work? And there's been a lot of interest in the economy lately in GO bonds. And so really GO bonds are a municipal tool. GO bonds, general obligation. So Denver voters approved the GO bond program every 4 to 10 years or so. And we'll get into a little later, when we've had these programs. And the reason we say 4 to 10 years is because we did have the RISE program about 4 years after Elevate. Or I said that wrong. RISE program was 4 years ago. So now we're getting ready to kick off this one. So then the City and County of Denver, we issue the GO bonds. After voters approve the program, we issue the bonds. Investors buy the bonds on the market. And then with those proceeds, we are able to deliver projects that are funded by the proceeds of the bond sales. And then through our debt service and over time, through our mill levy, we pay those investors back. So what are GO bonds? What are they and what aren't they? So bonds, they are for capital purposes. So they can restore, replace, and expand city amenities. They are for infrastructure improvements, and they're also for our reinvestment, our deferred maintenance. So think of those roads you drive on. Think of the bridges you drive across, the parks, the playgrounds. So all of that takes maintenance to keep up with. And so our bonds have also invested in that upkeep and maintenance. Our CIP, or Capital Improvement Program, that also, so we have our capital improvement program that we budget annually, and it is for the regular maintenance or funding on an annual basis. A lot of our maintenance, thanks to Ed Schultz in the audience, we do have a dedicated mill to do our deferred maintenance within our capital improvement program. Our capital improvement program can also help initiate a larger program, but it's typically our capital improvement program is a smaller bucket of money. So really the larger projects that 16th Street Mall was funded through bonds. So really those large projects would fit in bonds. Our CIP can also help with smaller programs, with smaller scopes. And so really those programmatic type capital improvements. We also have other grants. We have special districts. We have dedicated special revenue funds and capital funds. We have state grants. We have federal grants. And those are usually for dedicated projects or for very specific purposes. For special districts, that is geographically constrained. So again, capital improvement program can be spread across the city. Usually with the other bucket, it's for dedicated purposes. Examples of what GO bonds cannot pay for. They cannot pay for operations. So that is something that we'll have to consider. So you'll see before you, proposals for new libraries or new rec centers or new police station or whatever it is, we have to also think that the GO bonds can pay for the construction. They cannot pay for operations. So the police officers to work in that new police station, the GO bonds cannot pay for. Our GO bonds cannot pay for schools, for drainage, or any enterprise fund. So the golf course or the airport cannot pay for our enterprise fund. Our GO bonds cannot pay for city services. We cannot fund trash collection services out of our GO bond. So want to talk a little bit about our 6-year capital improvement plan. And this is really the foundational plan, which a lot of our capital improvement program is built upon. We just updated the capital improvement plan in 2025. So we just approved it earlier this year, really working the culmination from 2024. So what this is it has 2 project lists, and it's really a plan for future investment. It's for new capital improvements, and it's also for reinvestment and upkeep, our deferred maintenance, and that reinvestment into our communities. The 6-year capital improvement plan was really a compilation of all of the departmental community engagement plans, our adopted city plans, and working through that process last year with all of our partners and partners within the city, developed this list. We'll get into a lot of the details later, but it's about 6.8 billion of infrastructure needs. So we have a lot of needs out there. What's really neat though is, as we're going through this community process, we've received, and you'll hear a little bit about this later too, about 4,000 project requests thus far. And it's really neat to see the community process and all of those projects coming in and the alignment with our 6-year capital improvement plan. So all of the work that we've done within the past year of really creating this robust plan and the alignment with the community and how it's really aligning, just really shows that the community also feels this is all very important and very aligned with what they're thinking is the needs within the community too. So how do bonds help us? So GO bonds allow us to control our own destiny. As I said earlier, it's a municipal financing tool. We have a $7 billion 6-year capital improvement plan, about 250 projects. That's pretty substantial. Our annual capital budget is only $300 million. It's a local financing tool, so we get to decide, these parks, these roads, these buildings. Oftentimes we have had bonds leverage other funding. We've had bonds leverage other grants, federal grants, but really it is that local municipal financing tool. We also ask voters for input. We have to go to the vote in November, and voters have to approve this. So that's the most important feature of our GO bond program. We listening to the community, hearing their input, and they have to vote it. They have to vote it in. Bond projects are an economic stimulus tool. We've been seeing a lot in the economy lately, and for every $1 million that you spend in capital improvement, it's about 13 new jobs. Not let alone the sales tax that's created, and really stimulating that economy. And I'm going to repeat what Evan said. Most importantly, this new GO bond program is no new taxes. So we can do this bond program with no new taxes because we do have a dedicated mill levy. And I'll show you in this graph. This is actually my favorite chart. So this graph indicates the revenue that we get for our dedicated mills, or our property. It's backed by our property tax. The black line is our revenue that we're getting in from that dedicated mill, and that's per code. The bar lines, the gray is existing debt service. That's our Better Denver bond program and our Justice Center bonds. The green is our Elevate Denver debt service. And the blue bar is our Rise Denver debt service. So right now we're paying debt service on 3 different bond programs. You can see that in 2026, our debt service payments drop. We start paying off the Justice Center bonds, and we start rationing down some of our debt service on our Rise bonds, as well as our Better Denver bonds. And so the delta in between the bars and the revenue lines, that's our capacity. So that is our capacity to allow us to take on more debt, and within our current dedicated mill. Some recent bond programs. So in 2007, the voters approved Better Denver Bond. That was $550 million, about 380 capital projects, and it was over a 10-year bond program. In 2017, it was Elevate Denver Bonds, $937 million, so the biggest bond program to date. 500 capital projects, and also over a 10-year bond program, and we are on schedule to deliver those projects by the end of 2027. 2021, the Rise Denver Bonds. This was an economic stimulus. After COVID, that was a $260 million bond program, so smaller. However, 80 capital projects, and that's a 5-year bond project. So really, we're aligning the completion of Elevate and Rise together. Just some of your bonds in action. We have Denver Zoo, improvements in the new animal hospital. We have 16th Street Mall. We talked about earlier that leveraged a lot of federal funds as well. And so really rebuilding that infrastructure there. In Rise, we had the Urban Peak Mothership, the campus and shelter. We have Colfax BRT, that project's underway now. And then we have the Bear Valley Park tennis courts. So again, these are just examples of your bonds in action. And here I'm going to pass it over to Patrick.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Riley. I'm the Department of Finance's Vibrant Denver Bond Program Manager. Want to highlight what we're doing with Vibrant. So Evan touched on it earlier. We're looking at approximately an $800 million investment over 6 years. In the past, we've done 10-year bond programs. We're looking to shrink this down, really to concentrate our impact and let the communities feel it in a more succinct way. We had talked to council, we talked to the communities, we talked to the people that implement these projects, and we had heard repeatedly, we don't necessarily remember everything that we voted on, or we voted on that so long ago that the needs have kind of changed and my neighborhood has evolved and we're not feeling it the same way that we did. And with this program, we want to make an impact and we want people to feel that impact. So we're putting a little bit more pressure on ourselves to deliver what will be the second largest bond program in city history in a very abrupt timeline. Again, this comes back to you all as we're picking projects and we're tearing these things out to be conscious of the impact you're making. The 5 priorities, you all received emails talking about these subcommittees. And for 2 of those subcommittees, there's stars next to the names of these 2 subcommittees. And we wanted to highlight that there's been changes to those subcommittee names. The one in the middle, rec centers, libraries, housing, and other city facilities. This was raised by multiple people in the community and by council. It was always our intention that housing fit into this subcommittee. We wanted to make an intentional change here and highlight that this is where housing goes and give it the proper sunlight that it deserved. Call it out very intentionally and make sure that everyone in the public and for the subcommittees knows that that was the intent and clearly sees it. Additionally, on the far right of your screen here, safe and healthy neighborhoods. This was previously known as public safety. Councilwoman Torres has highlighted for us that was not as reflective as what we were hearing from the community. And that has also changed, and we wanted to highlight for you all. For the process, wanted to kind of show you where we came from, where we're going, and where we're at right now. So we've been in a community engagement process. We've been going to public meetings. We've been getting tons and tons and tons of public input. We're at almost 4,000 pieces right now over the last 8 weeks. And we're taking that input and we're filtering it and we're going through that second box, which is a technical review committee, which goes through and validates scopes and puts schedules to things and starts to do some conceptual estimates and puts budgets to things, all in preparation for the middle box, which is where you all live, the subcommittee review. So we will be providing you all, as you go into your subcommittee process with 1-pagers, that are your scope, schedule, and budget. Things that you can evaluate to help us tier out and select the projects and really help shape what we're going to go deliver this, the voters hopefully entrust us to in November. Sorry, I'm going a little too fast here. Sorry. After subcommittee review, we will go into an executive committee review, which will take those, kind of feather them together, put it into a ranked order. We'll draw a line on it, establish what's exactly in the bond and out of the bond. And then it'll go into the legislative process with the mayor and city council. Now we'll go to the next slide. Subcommittee values. We have a commitment to equity across the city. I'm going to pause here for just a second. In another world, we would have had Dr. Ben Sanders speak roughly right here in this presentation. Dr. Ben unfortunately had an emergency today and wasn't able to be here with us. Because of that, we are going to have Dr. Ben come and talk about equity to every single subcommittee individually. I don't want to sell short how important this commitment is to us. It is going to be laced into the values of everything that we do through this process. There are historic inequities across this city. It is critical that we are considering that as a part of what we are doing and that we are addressing that as a part of this process. So want to pause and talk about that as we talk about our commitment to equity. We have a commitment to sustainability. All of our meetings are going to be held in public. We are asking you to honor our no advocating or lobbying on behalf of projects or organizations. We've asked that of our staffs. We've asked that of our executive directors. We're going to ask that of you as well. At the end of this, we're here to serve to present a balanced package of investments across the city to address city needs. The evaluation timeline, subcommittees will set their own cadence. We are envisioning that likely requires a 2-hour meeting every week over the course of the next 4 to 5 weeks. We are anticipating that might start next week. It could start the week after. Ultimately, that's up to the subcommittees. When we go into breakout rooms, that's going to be one of our tasks, is to help define what that might look like. We need to be done by the week of May 16th to stay on schedule. So that's ultimately where we're at. The evaluation process. Subcommittee members are going to receive summaries, these one-page documents. We're going to hand you all a binder of them. This is a rolling process. Our public engagement process is still going on right now. So you're going to be receiving groups of projects in tranches, likely 3 tranches total. During the weekly meetings, you'll evaluate those projects, and we're asking you to sort them into tiers, 1, 2, and 3. What we're not asking you to do is to meet to a certain dollar figure. We're not asking you to put a certain amount in any tier. We're asking you to evaluate these projects solely on their merit. You will have subject matter experts from pertinent departments and city staff in the room to help you. So if you are on the connectivity subcommittee, as an example, and you have a question about how city traffic works, we have our wonderful city traffic engineer in the room. You can ask that question. If you want additional information about a project that was given to you, you're going to be able to ask city staff, and we're going to go chase that information down for you. Project recommendations at the end of this are going to the executive committee. And again, the executive committee is going to help feather that all together for the final refinement that goes into the legislative process. The project evaluations, and you'll receive this in your binders. So please know that this is going to come back up later. So I don't see anybody taking notes. Really alarming. The community needs and benefit. How does this project change or improve the lives of people in the community? Like core value stuff. Community equities. Are we solving historic deficits in services and investments? How will this project impact the community holistically? Do the long-term benefits from the project outweigh the negative impacts from project implementation? Economic impacts, and I know Lori touched on this earlier with the operations and maintenance and what bonds can pay for and can't pay for. But as a project goes on, does it promote economic activity or does it hurt economic activity in the area? Does it create growth through the project? And does the project require a long-term O&M investment through its implementation? Health, safety, and environmental impacts. Does the project address health and safety? Does it increase or decrease environmental concerns? And then ultimately, project readiness. We have an end goal of 6 years. We have a desire to make impacts here and to do special things. And we have a fiscal responsibility to do it in 6 years. So we got to be able to put a shovel in the ground and complete in 6 years. Community conversations. I think this is shockingly somehow, we've got District 2 tonight, here in a couple hours. We got District 4 next week. Every time I see the list, it's amazing to me how many people have actually attended these things. We're over 500. I'm sure it'll grow drastically tonight again. It's been an amazing outpouring of people. You sometimes see some of the same faces, people that are really, really engaged from the community. Ultimately, this has led to that almost 4,000 pieces of input, which who knows, by right now, that could be over 4,000. It feels like the number moves constantly in the ticker. So I know those top numbers are out of date because if we take them 10 minutes from now, they'll be different than where they are right this second. We are going to be debuting an online results. How long are we? Next couple of days for the dashboard?
For the first subcommittee meeting, you'll have access to it, so you can review it before the first subcommittee.
Perfect. The project ideas that are under review, they have come from surveys. They have come from online surveys. They've come from surveys that are in every rec center, every library across the city. They come from the community conversations. They have come from, what else am I forgetting?
Letters from
Organizations, advocacy groups, and RNOs. They are going to continue to stay open, and we're going to continue to take input until the 17th, which is why we're doing this rolling process with the tranches coming in, because we're starting now on the evaluations, but the process is still open for a little while longer. If you have input and if you know your neighbors, other people in the community that have ideas, encourage them to put in. Can't address things we don't know about. The dashboard, this is exactly what you're going to see publicly. We are asking people, again, do you live here? Do you work here? Are you just visiting? What's important to you? And how satisfied are you with them? And this hits across your priorities. Again, this should look very similar to the committees you're sitting on. Where do you identify with where you might live in the city? So these are not necessarily the neighborhood. We do ask that as well. But, you know, how do you identify, like, do I live in Central Denver? Do I live in West Denver? Word clouds of the things that we are seeing out of the community. I'm sure Jolene will be happy to see that park is nice and big. Again, we're seeing housing nice and big as well. A map of the project ideas we've had thus far. Every single dot that's on there, you'll be able to hover over and see exactly what that response was and exactly what that project idea was. Yeah, we get to see this every day. This is like super overwhelming for me every morning. So like this is 8 weeks of public input, like super awesome. Like, there you go. I'm sorry. Timeline overview. We did the public launch February 12th. We're in this development of project ideas and into the evaluation process. We're kind of right there in the middle, all in the service of getting into a legislative process and getting onto a ballot that hopefully the voters trust us in November to deliver for them. Now the fun part. So questions? Yes, ma'am.
Will the data that's on the dashboard be available for download, or is it only the dashboard view
It's available for download.
with the raw data?
Raw data is available for download. Yes, ma'am. Yes, the question was, will the data be available for download off the dashboard? And the answer is yes, it will be available for download. Yes, sir.
I saw in the criteria an economic impact. Is there an opportunity for a stack? Meaning, this is a project that complements surrounding projects, that is catalytic. Like, is that a portion of that?
So the question is, will we be considering whether or not a project is catalytic and can spark other developments around it?
Or complements other existing, like adjacent to a redevelopment, private sector or otherwise?
Yes, I would hope that we're evaluating. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You said the subcommittees will not be asked to come up with a targeted amount, but does the administration already have some sense of how the 800 million will be divvied across different categories, and or what is the process by which that will be decided?
So the question was, does the administration have an idea of how the 800 million would be divvied up across the different categories? And the easy answer is no. The mayor's been very vocal, both at public meetings and internally, that no, he has no expectation of how that money would be divvied up. He wants it to be fully community and meritocracy based. So we do not have a set of how that will be done. It's going to be done through the executive committee is where that will happen. So it's just based off the tiers.
Hi, that's the criteria. Are those all equivalent? Is there a scoring matrix you're providing? And then I know the O&M comment, like how much do we weigh sort of operating costs for these rec centers or libraries? Is that part of our decision making, or is that your problem to solve?
So ultimately, we are going to hand you a general scoring matrix. Where effectively we're going to ask you to weight high, medium, low. We're not going to put a percentage based or a scoring matrix to it. Everyone that is in this room is here because we're trusting your opinion and asking you to provide us where you feel like as a group cohesively, you feel like these things will go. Again, we're not telling you that X amount of these projects have to end up in any given tier. If you feel like there are no tier 3s in your group, then there's no tier 3s in your group, right? If there's something that comes and you go, half of these are in tier 3, then half of them are in tier 3. Like, it is based on the expertise of people that are in this room. Like, we are handing this to you all and trusting you. Oh, the operating cost question. Again, it's subjective. We're asking your opinion, how you view it, and we're asking benefit versus need.
Additionally, with the operating cost question as well, we will have budget and management office in those meetings as well to really help define what that future operating cost would be, to really weigh that in.
I'm assuming the city is going to weed out of the 4,000 requests, the ones that don't meet the legal requirements. So we don't even have to work through those.
Yes, and so not only will we weed out what doesn't meet the legal requirements, want to put some things to rest as far as fears. We're not asking you all to go through 4,000 applications. There are a lot of them that are duplicative. There are some of them that are not actionable, like a general statement of, man, it'd be nice if we had helium balloons in the city. That's not something we can do anything with. So you might really support the hot air balloon lobby, but if you're not telling me where you want it, I can't really evaluate that. So we're not going to do a submittal. We don't have an exact number of what the total number of projects that will hit all committees will be, but I will tell you it's in the hundreds and not thousands. So.
Patrick, how do the various subcommittees and the project list will sync up with, repeat your question?
That's people virtually attending here.
How do the 5 subcommittees, the project list that we'll review sync up with the 5-year infrastructure planning?
The 6-year CIP
Yeah.
and the projects that we have seen come in so far have significant overlap. From the highest rated projects we saw come through the 6-year CIP process and what we have seen through the submittal so far, it's not really much of a Venn diagram. It's almost a perfect circle. We are in the single digits as far as the projects that were the highest rated of the 6-year CIP that are not also submitted out of the community right now. Like Laura indicated, it's kind of been a beautiful thing to see how synced up the community was from that process to what we're seeing submitted now.
Who's on the executive committee?
Wonderful question. The question was who's on the executive committee? That is undefined right now. It has not been seated or selected. So we have Dr. Ben, council president, and the city CFO are the only defined seats. That's it at this time.
What will the process be? Like, will the mayor decide? Will council decide? Will we vote amongst ourselves?
For the
remaining seats?
For the remaining seats, I don't know the answer to that question.
And process is still in formation. Yeah. You feel pretty good that we got you all here. Executive committee is next. So, yeah, the process of the executive committee is still in formation. We're just glad we got you all here to start the subcommittee process first. We'll work on this.
Will we be able to see if there are projects that have been under consideration multiple times during these different bond tranches and know that for 15 years, the neighborhood's been submitting this project and it's never been the cut, or no?
If we have that data that we can pull, be more than glad to share whatever we can pull. Again, you'll have city SMEs in the room. I think we know most of the ones that have been coming up to tell you with certainty that there's not going to be something that somebody says, hey, I submitted something in a community plan 15 years ago and then it fell off the radar and now it's back here and how come nobody flagged that? I can't promise you that's not going to happen, but I think we've got most of those pretty well identified. Any other questions? You guys are way too easy. Awesome. So breakout sessions. We are going to, if you are on the connectivity panel, you're going to end up staying in this room. But the other rooms, we're going to grab and head out to other rooms. In those other rooms, we are going to meet your other subcommittees, members, and you're going to meet the staff. We are going to ask you to select the chairperson. We're going to help determine the meeting schedule and the cadence. We are going to have your city agencies for the applicable presentations come present to you about mission and vision and goals of those city agencies. And then we're going to let a little bit of discussion and questions happen, whether it's for the facilitators or each other. Here are the list of the breakout rooms and your facilitators. So if you were with arts and culture, congratulations, you get to listen to me talk for a couple more minutes. If you are with parks and climate, Lisa, can you stand up for me? Back here on the left, you're going to go with Lisa. Rec centers, housing, libraries, Laura, right here. Safe and healthy neighborhoods. Where's Jackson at? Jackson's in the back right. And then again, connectivity, you're going to stay in the room with Molly. Molly's right here in the middle. Okay. Reminder for your subcommittee rosters. Hopefully everybody knows what subcommittee you are on. But if you don't, we have extra rosters and we can help you get identified with who you should be with. So flag one of us down and we will help you. that.
Here's up to the fact that we'll put all of it.
Sure. You can do that. So will the facilitators that are leaving the room come up to the front for me?